Hello and welcome to Who Are You? This is a reasonably well done podcast hosted by two friends who are currently watching 2004's Battlestar Galactica. I'm Xhafer.
And I'm Laura.
And we are on Season 1, Episode 5, You Can't Go Home Again.
Yeah, so this is the resolution of a actual facts cliffhanger as opposed to the pseudo cliffhangers we've had every single episode up till the previous.
Yeah. It's also like the first 5 episodes are kind of a cohesive arc.
Mm-hmm.
And after this, we get into more modular episodes for a little bit, I think.
No, I would agree with that. I was trying to decide if I was going to save this statement for the next episode or go ahead and make it here.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'll go ahead and at least allude to it here, that I feel like there's a theme across all these episodes, at least in the first half of the season. I don't know if I can speak for the whole season. And I would call that theme just very loosely grow up. We get some growing up for Adama and Lee in this one.
Yeah.
And we had some growing up in the last one for Starbuck herself. And we get some growing up in the next one for someone else.
Yeah.
So I don't, know if that was how the creators saw it in their minds, but that's what's coming across to me.
There's a bit more of that down the road, too. I won't say anything for the sake of spoilers, but if you've looked at the episode titles, they allude to, at the very least, one character having to have a grow-up moment.
I sure hope it's Colonel Ty and Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. I sure hope that's his grow-up moment.
Well, that's a real Colonel Ty Strong episode, so we'll get to it. I literally can't even begin to describe that episode without giant spoilers. To the point where I bet the episode description is giant spoilers for that one.
Oh, you think so?
The thing that defines that episode happens within like the first 5 minutes, if memory serves.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's one of those. The thing happens and then we grapple with it the whole time. I cannot wait to have our friend Ryan on for that episode because I suspect I'm sure there's interesting stuff in that episode, but I think that the title was a non-zero part of why he chose to be on that episode.
Well, the title is, it'll make sense when we get there.
Okay. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it, but we're going to have a movie break before that.
Yes, our movie break is in a few weeks. As of air, I think it's actually about a month away from this episode airing, give or take. But that's just because we've been building up a stockpile over the winter break for in between my new job and your new semester. We've been stockpiling episodes.
Responsibility reasons. We're being responsible people.
Yeah.
Look at us.
So, it's nice to be well in advance, but it also means that we won't be very reactionary. So when this airs after, I don't know, January 20th, hell, after January 6th. Yeah.
all we're doing is discussing podcast and people are like, everything's on fire. What's wrong with you two? Yeah.
That's why.
Don't worry, Lister. I'm sure we'll blow our lead at some point.
Yeah.
So don't even worry about it. We'll be back to being right on top of it with you.
Surely at some point. All right.
Okay. So let's resolve this cliffhanger, huh?
We open with Hot Dog being rescued by Boomer and Crashdown as they search for Starbuck. Apollo gives Hot Dog his wings, although actually that's his major rank pin.
Yeah, I was like, wait, is he getting a field promotion? Now, I don't know military stuff. I think that's become clear at this point in this series that Laura knows nothing about military. But I feel like one of the last groups of people that I want getting field promotions is my pilots.
You ever been in a cockpit before?
Probably doctors is another one. Don't love that. I don't want a field promoted doctor that
someone who was
hasn't
not
finished
a doctor.
school.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you have like a civilian doctor and you're like, congratulations, civilian doctor, now you're a lieutenant or whatever, that's fine. But if you haven't finished doctor school, like I'm a little worried about that, as I am worried about the pilot who just had his first day, even though he did shoot down one Cylon.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a time. It's hard to say. We don't get a days since days on Caprica for Hilo here, right?
Oh, we do. We do.
Do we?
It's day 15.
Day 15?
Yeah. So it's been a day.
Okay.
It's been one day.
It's been one day. Okay. Well, she started training them on day 12, right? So
I don't remember if it was 12 or 14.
Okay.
I thought it was 14.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Regardless, not enough training.
No. So I'm a little anxious about that for everyone, but you know what? It's TV. It'll be fine.
Well, Hot Dog is also the one that washed out of the academy. So he might have years of training that we don't know about.
That's true.
He might. They don't say when he washed out.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. They don't say that he washed out because he couldn't fly either. He could have washed out because he had an attitude.
Yeah.
Like, other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will buy that. I'll buy that more than the girl who like crashed on the flight deck or whatever.
Yeah. Kat doesn't get her wings today.
Right.
Over on the set of The Martian, Starbuck's parachute drags her until she can cut it to theme. Yeah.
It's just the wind too, right?
I mean, that's what parachutes are for, catching wind. That's their job.
Yeah. Well, it's not like there's a monster dragging her by her parachute or something, or, it's just really windy and hostile out there.
Yeah, if this were TNG, monster dragging that shit. 100%.
Yeah, and so I think in the previous scene too, Apollo's tech was trying to get his like Viper ready to go to join the search, and Adama pounced on Lee in the cockpit to tell him to go find Starbuck.
After theme, Adama and Gaeta do some table setting, including, and I fucking love this, Adama asking Gaeta how much time Starbuck has left to reveal Felix has already set a fucking timer, and it's within eyesight of Adama. The frame shows us him looking at it as he asks him.
That's when you really know your boss and how to anticipate his needs.
Yeah.
What a support person Mr. Gaeta and his team are.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that Felix just loves his clocks.
I mean, who doesn't love a countdown clock?
Yeah.
And we already had them all ready to go because we were just counting down 33 over and over.
Exactly. That was all him. He was the one resetting all those clocks.
Yeah.
He just loves his clocks.
Yeah, so Colonel Ty told us that there were only 2 gravity wells that had the potential to have absorbed Starbuck's
ship
vehicle. Yeah. There's a gas giant, which, I mean, we're toast if we hit the gas giant, sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like
and
pretty quick radiation death there.
And a moon that's not great. As we said in the last episode, not M-class for Star Trek people. And those are the 2 places we need to try to focus on. The moon, more likely.
Adama here, the commander, is pretty sure that time is on their side. Since this was a patrol without a base star, he kind of throws down this logic chain where he's like, look, they're probably just patrolling around, probably do a couple days at a time, probably do this, probably do that, anywhere where there might be resources that we might be looking for. They don't know where we are. This proves that. And also that their ways of looking for us are going to be probably things along these lines. And so if they can't report back, then it's going to be a couple days before they might be back. So we've got some time to conduct this search.
And we've been told Starbuck has 46 hours of oxygen. We think we can get away with staying put even a little bit longer than that before the Cylons notice they're missing patrol.
Yeah. Roslyn calls to let Adama know the other pilots and captains are all willing to help search efforts.
Yeah, that was really nice.
They don't. We never see any of them do it. But
we hear about it, though.
They're kept far away from the moon, though. It's it's wild to me that the immediate plan is to keep them on the other side of the system.
Yeah. See, I didn't get that part, but I heard them talking about well, we're going to move them at one point. I could see that maybe they can't go into atmosphere to look at the moon because it seemed really rough down there. We see Lee having all that turbulence and a hard time, and they probably got civilians on all their ships. Yeah. So you can't just go knock people's heads around in the turbulence.
Yeah. But I mean, I imagine some of those ships could probably handle that, and maybe you offload some civvies.
Yeah, rearrange some people.
Yeah.
You guys go hang out on the Astral Queen for a while we
Yeah.
look in the atmosphere.
Yeah, like Colonial One's got a
Yeah.
ton of windows. Just have some people looking out some windows.
Yeah, exactly. We also get Gaius sitting with her
Yeah.
while she makes this phone call, and he gets a visit from 6PT while he's sitting with the president.
Yeah. This episode was directed by Quentin Tarantino vibes, which is to say lots of foot shots. Just lots of foot shots, an uncomfortable amount of foot shots.
Everything with 6PT is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She's like taunting him and like kissing his fingers.
Yeah.
So he's just sitting there in front of the president with like his hand up and orgasm face going on.
Yep.
Uh,
I can't wait for 2 episodes from now.
oh no, it's gonna get worse because these already give me like the heebie-jeebies. They're just so gross.
We'll get there when we get there.
And the music is starting to give me anxiety. Like every time it starts, I'm like, oh no, it's another creepy, weird 6PT sex thing. Oh no, oh no.
Did you get a count on the board here in the background? 47,958, if you didn't catch it.
47,000?
47,958.
Weren't we at 45 before? What happened?
Mm.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
Okay. I think we were at 49, and then they had to blow up the liner,
okay.
and then they dropped down to 47.
I've just got odd numbers in the brain somewhere. Yeah, so he distracts Rosalind from his own weirdness for a minute by suggesting that the search for Starbuck may be unwise. I am no fan of Gaius.
Yeah.
We know this. I do think he has a point.
He is the best kind of villain in ways sometimes where it's very hard to argue with him.
Yeah. It's like the Onion headline that's been going around again. That worst person you know just made a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Gaius Baltar for me.
Oh, man, my favorite version of that same exact thing is the Good Place version where have you seen The Good Place?
I have not, but I've seen lots of memes.
Okay. So it's Ted Danson and he's going, Jason figured this out. Jason, I got to admit this is a real low point for us. Because that character's an idiot in the show, right? And it's so, but they replaced the first panel with like, the one I saw most recently was like Ann Coulter bitching about tech bros only being interested in allowing H-1B visas because they're basically enslaving workers that way.
Right, yeah.
And that it's Ann Coulter figured this out. This is a real low point.
I have seen some of the things to that effect. Yeah. There's been some interesting cognitive dissonances uncovered recently.
Yeah. And I mean, like, has a guy who's worked in IT for almost a decade at this point, and specifically in the data space that I work in, I have a lot of Indian peers who are on those types of visas, both here and in Canada. And 100%, it's like, I hate my job and I'm abused by my boss, but I can't quit because I will get deported. Real fucking problems.
Yeah. That is so interesting.
It is a huge thing right now.
I find something really interesting in here that 6PT is super jealous of Starbuck.
Yeah.
So weird. Like, you're inside Gaius's head. Why are you surprised by anything or jealous about any? I don't know. And 6 clearly knew who and what Gaius was. That's part of how she was able to manipulate him in the beginning of all of this. So why are we jealous?
Why are we jealous? Man, I actually have a really compelling theory about this that I can't talk about.
We'll get there eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have something else to say about that, but it's actually, I think, in the next episode.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hold on to it. But I just find this jealousy very interesting.
All right.
But Rosalind is doing a great job.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad generally are doing a good job here of presenting the united front to the children.
Yeah.
And saying, no, your dad's made the decision. I stand with Dad's decision.
Mm-hmm.
And she does. She does and dismisses his concern for now.
Yeah. On the moon, Starbuck patches up what she can. She checks her radio and the atmosphere, both of which are not good news.
No, she's got like little test strips for atmosphere. I like that. That's a neat touch.
She resolves to get to higher ground to help aid in her ability to be found.
And Lee is also like down in the atmosphere at this point. We see him like struggling with the visibility, and he almost eats this canyon wall because he couldn't even see it right in front of him. He has to pull up real sharp.
How different would this episode be if Lee died right here?
Oh, yeah. Like, how bad would it be if Lee died right here, but also we didn't? Because, you know, he's got the, what do they call that? The raptor with him?
Yeah.
Right? But the raptor is also having trouble, and like they didn't see him die.
Yeah.
So maybe he just crashed and he's also lost.
Ugh.
Like, how bad does Adama spin out?
Yeah.
In that situation?
Is it just get 10 times worse? If it's any other pilot besides Lee, he's all like, we can't do this. We're just going to kill everyone. We need to go. And does he deal with it that way? Like,
yeah. But if he loses Lee and that he doesn't know Lee is gone, like, whew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now we're going to go over to Caprica, though. This is where I caught the day 15. So.
Yeah. Sharon and Hilo have resupplied sufficiently and are ready to move on. Hilo goes to make some brekkie when a Centurion rolls in. The toaster goes off.
Yeah, the toaster betrays him.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's so funny, too, because the toaster has that red light on the front.
And it's chrome. It's perfect.
It's beautiful. Just like, chef's kiss. I love it.
This shootout starts when Sharon leaves the bunker.
Hilo
gets one, hides from the other, and kind of gets knocked out as we cut back to the moon.
Yeah, like all the Le Creuset starts falling off the walls, and those sons of bitches are heavy. One knocks him out when he's hitting the head.
Starbuck is wandering around the moon. She throws a prayer to the Lords of Kobol and is immediately greeted with a landed Cylon Raider.
Yeah, this is sort of what I would call like a half-assed prayer. It's the kind of prayer that I might throw up because I'm not a person who grew up praying.
Yeah.
And don't always have like feelings of strong faith. And so it's kind of weak and slapped together, and I totally identify with that. But it seems to work, right?
Yeah. Seems to be the case.
Yeah, we've got this downed Cylon fighter.
Yeah.
So interesting that she like crawls along and approaches it with her gun out.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that we as humans really know like what the fighter ships are like. I mean, she's obviously really surprised by some things about it.
Yeah.
But you know, she doesn't know if there are actually like other Cylons inside.
Yeah, I think that's the assumption. And when she sees the headshot that she pulled off right there, she assumes that she has killed the pilot.
Boom! Headshot!
Mostly correctly.
Yeah.
Just she didn't realize what was going on there. I think she thought there was just a Cylon inside of there.
Yeah. She doesn't seem to be phased at all by the like blood dripping out of that headshot.
Yeah. That was, she's aware Cylons look like humans? Yes, because she...
Is she?
She is, because she was part of the poker table where they were talking to Baltar about his human Cylon detector with Gata.
Oh, okay. So, I was wondering that next. Like, does she actually know that the Cylon human problem is happening?
Yeah, so she probably sees that and thinks that there was a humanoid Cylon inside of there at first, leading to her reaction later when she realizes that is not the case.
I feel like, if I'm remembering it correctly, it was like blood out of the headshot and then maybe some blood from beneath like the red light, maybe.
Yeah.
It was in two places, I think, that I thought was really interesting. Like, when you see depictions of, say, a human headshot, you might see like the injury and then also like they bled out of their mouth or something, like coughing up blood. And I thought that was an interesting, like, bringing that into this Cylon fighter.
I mean, we've had some explanations about like humans like landing and getting splattered because of the Force, which is a thing that we have to worry about with jets and planes and things right now, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And so that might have been her thought. The Cylon in there might have got killed and then smushed in a bad landing. Who knows? She probably just doesn't know, though. She either doesn't know or doesn't care because there's too much going on to spend a lot of time thinking about it.
She's really proud of herself for that headshot, and she seems to plan to fix this Cylon ship and fly out of there, which I put so many question marks in my notes right here because I was like, this doesn't even seem like a good plan. Like,
it's the only one she's got.
It's true. It's true. It just doesn't seem like a good idea, even at this level. I'm amazed how she pulls it off.
She's like barely able to walk. She's mostly pulling herself around. So, back on the ship, Ty suggests keeping the civvies in a defensible formation, which Adama abukes immediately with all of the fury he contained last episode.
Yeah, he lost his cool. It's more about finding Starbuck. But again, worst person I know makes great point. Like, Ty isn't wrong.
Yeah.
The civilians should be in a defensible position, like, especially if you have, like we said, ships that maybe I have to take the whole ship to look.
Yeah.
There could be hundreds, thousands of defenseless, innocent people on my ship who did not make this decision. It's not fair to them to put them at risk too far.
Yeah.
So I do think Ty is just being a responsible XO. So I just... Adama, get it together.
We go back to Caprica here, and for Hilo, it's suddenly blue color-coded when he wakes up. And Sharon is nowhere to be found. It's supposed to be nighttime, but it's still kind of like daytime out when he leaves. And it was breakfast time. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. I don't think they do a good job of explaining it. It's just very blue on Caprica for some reason.
Is it just a nuclear winter fallout thing happening? Maybe like all of a sudden we've got some cloud cover we didn't have before.
Maybe.
Like weather patterns are all messed up. I don't know. But Sharon's not in the bunker. She's not in the restaurant. And he really does like go out in the street just calling for her, which seems very stupid.
Yeah.
For a man who was just ambushed by the BattleBots. Like, come on.
Starbuck looks for a way into the Raider, only to be surprised by how organic the inside is.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Me too, Starbuck. Yeah, the ship is full of meat. Like ship meat.
Yep, ship meat.
So I had already correctly assumed earlier in an episode that the fighters did not have crews aboard them.
Yes.
That they were just straight robot. And I did not include in that they would also have the meaty bits that the 12 Cylon models do.
Yes. There is a reason for this.
For the meaty bits?
For the meaty bits. And I don't know if it's explicitly explained at any point, but I know that there is a episode, I think in season 2, called Scar, that goes a bit more into about the Raiders specifically. And if it's not explicitly said there, we understand why there.
Okay. I guess where I'm going with it in my head would be that, like, there is something about having organic components that creates a better processor. Like that. And this is so silly. This is going to sound like the silliest thing. But in my undergraduate, I had took a philosophy class, and a paper that I wrote for that class was like, if we could create a sufficiently like advanced human-like computer and even mimic the organic components and stuff, do we also create a soul?
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this paper talking about 2001 and Blade Runner, the book, as my references. And I kind of wish I had known anything about this show at that time. Because it seems like that's what this show is asking.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, did Ronald D. Moore and I have the same thought at about the same time? Because that would have been in 2004, 5, 6, you know, that I wrote this paper. So independently asking a similar question, but one of us had a lot more resources and talent. Let's go there too.
Yeah. So just all kinds of ship meat in here. Starbuck is kind of aghast at it all.
Yeah. Fair.
We cut over to Apollo, who suggests pulling the defense Vipers away from the civilian fleet to help with the search. Ty objects, and Lee yells at him about it.
Yeah. I want to call out a specific phrase said in this scene and conversation. So Lee is hassling Tyrell about fixing his Viper. And Tyrell's got no spares. And at one point he says, you can push people a lot harder than you can push machines.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a weird thing to say.
It makes sense, though. Because when a machine hits a breaking point, it stops because it's broken.
Yeah.
When a person hits a breaking point, you can keep going. You just pay for it later.
Yeah. Well, and you think about the episode 33, where they were all being pushed to their limit, but they were still hanging on after 5 days.
Yeah.
Was that right? Of constant jumping and no sleep, et cetera, et cetera. But the Cylons were still right behind them. They were still like, right there.
Well, I mean, the breaking point for a machine and the breaking point for a person are not at the same place. But people can push past theirs.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just like, that's like a throwaway line. But in the context of this show, I think you can think about it a lot more.
Yeah.
Lee actually like grabs Ty's collar.
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
Yeah, it's getting spicy in CIC for sure.
I don't know what the chain of command is like in this universe. Is Lee
Adama, Ty, the second officer, Lee. I think Lee is the fourth. There might be other majors on board, but Lee is like the fourth highest ranking military official. In fact, he might be tied with the second officer on Galactica. I think that person might also be a major.
I guess I've never really thought about this because I don't think about the military that much, but because I think about the 4 different branches we have, right? And I kind of in my head was almost lumping like Adama and Ty into Navy, where Lee would be Air Force. But the purpose of rank is still like if you are dealing with another branch, you still have a hierarchy. You're not just because you're in another branch, like totally separate from.
Yeah, so we handle that in the
chain of command,
in the U.S. by the rank names might be different depending on your branch, but there's just like E1 through 6 or E1 through 9, I think technically, and then O1 through 9, and those are consistent across.
Okay.
So like an E6 might be like a staff sergeant in the Army, and that might be a different title in a different branch because you've got your Army, your Navy, your Air Force, your Coast Guard, and your Space Force are the 5 branches of our military.
Yeah. I was forgetting about Space Force.
And I believe the Marines are just part of the Navy, technically. I don't think they're a separate branch. Regardless, hoorah in the chat, I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, but I think in Galactica land, it really is just like one military. Like my mental division between Lee and the rest is not accurate. And
I think there are other branches. I just don't think we deal with them. They at least,
Oh, okay.
I think maybe it might be better to say there were other branches.
Sure, yeah. Because they probably were elsewhere
Yeah.
when all this occurred. But I guess there is maybe a little bit of like not official division between Lee and everyone else just because he's been picked by President Roslin for a thing.
Yeah.
So there might be a little bit of like, I laid my hands on the superior officer, but I have the protection of the president a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I mean, also, I'm agreeing with my dad, and my dad's telling you to do the thing.
Yeah. There's the
a
other
little
thing.
nepotiz. So.
Yeah.
Starbuck cuts this raider brain out as her oxygen starts to dwindle.
Yeah.
This is the thing that makes no sense to me because she looks at it and she's got a quarter of her oxygen tank left, but she's got like 2 hours of oxygen left out of her 48.
Uh-huh.
That would be like more than like a quarter of a tank is more than 2 hours. Because it's just like, it's either a very poorly designed gauge. Like if it's just like a PSI gauge, because at a certain point the PSI will just normalize and it'll be effectively empty. It depends on how it works. So maybe it might not be a gauge of how full the tank is. It just seems to me to be needlessly poorly designed because you would think that it would be more in line with time than anything else. Or if it was not going to be aligned with time, you would think that it would at least work its way down in a manner in which a quarter of a tank would be very red, but 3/8 of a tank would have to be very green still. If it's all proportional. I just don't know how you use, because it was 3/4 of a tank and she had 46 hours. So make it make sense.
Right.
It's a curve and I don't like it. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And so she's running out of oxygen and wonders how this thing breathes, because if it's organic, it must breathe. And I don't know. I don't know that
It doesn't have lungs. She didn't cut lungs out of it.
Yeah.
Why would you engineer an organic brain to require oxygen if it's going to operate in space?
Yeah. Like, if you could, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why, yeah. I don't know. I was like, okay.
It's very convenient for her, though.
It is. And President Roslin gives a call to Lee.
Yeah.
She's pretty upset that they're still searching. She points out that they're being a bit hypocritical.
Yeah. This fleet is defenseless. Come on now.
And Lee tries to convince himself otherwise.
Just trying to make it work in his brain meat so that he can do the thing he wants to do. Commander Adama does not handle Gata's countdown ending well, telling Gata to fuck off and relieving the colonel of duty. Yeah.
So, worst person we know, Ty, made a good point. But now we have some apprehension from Gata as well to like back up that like, hey, like this isn't making a lot of sense anymore.
Yeah.
Because Gata's actually super nice and we like Gata. We have not seen anything from him to not like him.
Yes, that is true.
And so Ty, like, we've seen him act like a jerk and we've seen him like rationing his booze and we've seen him be needlessly aggressive at Starbuck. So we can discount his opinion that they're putting people at risk, but it's a little harder to discount Gata. And Adama is still on the terror about this.
Yeah. So Starbuck finds the O2 tube here. After about 30 minutes past the end of oxygen, the president calls to offer condolences. And an hour and 15 minutes after, she starts knocking on the door.
So, cutting tubes in an organic spacecraft raider.
Yeah.
We know this thing, she assumes, okay, well, if it's organic, it's got to have oxygen. Well, organic stuff also has waste too, right? What if you accidentally cut the wrong tube?
Oh, you cut the poop tube. Oh, no.
You thought it smelled bad before. Now I'm picturing these like Cylon Raiders going to their base star and they like get stuff. They get one tube plugged up the butt to like give them more oxygen. And then they like squeeze out the poop tube. That's what they do when they come home.
Totally exactly what happens. Meanwhile, Starbuck is trying to figure out how to fly this raider, and while Ty fills Rosalind in on the history of the Adamas and Kara.
Yeah. Poor Rosalind, too. Like, being this outsider already in this situation of military people who have their thing. They already know each other really well. And you have to go knock on the door to be like, what the fuck are you doing, guys?
Yeah.
And now you're getting like the rundown about who was sleeping with who and who feels like they're whose daughter. And like, you just want to keep 47,000-ish people alive. And you're dealing with everybody's fifis all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that sounds awful.
It sure does.
She like starts dressing them down.
Yeah.
When Ty gets her to Dama's quarters, I think.
Yeah. She tells the commander that he's lost perspective and is putting the fleet at risk. Tells them to give up for the future of humanity. And the commander and Lee kind of look at each other. He orders the search to end and the fleet to prep to leave. And as if on cue, Starbuck gets the raider into the air this moment.
Yeah. Engines online. Pulling up.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down in my notes here, how can she see anything?
That's a good question.
We don't get like there's a view screen or anything. And it's like, was the red light like just a little window? But even if it is, even if the red light thing is a window, that was really narrow.
Yeah, it'd be tough to work with, I got to imagine. Did she have to pull an actual eyeball out from behind the red light?
Oh, man. Yeah, that'd be great. Just one eyeball, though.
Yeah.
Just one.
It moves.
Yeah.
It's on a track.
And how is her flight suit? Because she just like tucked her flight suit into the bullet hole.
Yeah.
Like there's the one bullet hole for one thing. Like I guess there's not any others. She tucks her flight suit into that and then just like takes off. It's like, okay, I hope that's airtight, you know?
Yeah. I would have been trying to get the oxygen tube like tied up into my flight suit.
For real. She's just like, okay, I'm just going to go with this oxygen like blowing at me, I think.
Yeah.
Is what she's got it doing. I don't know.
Yep. Use it to fill up your tank and then maybe cinch it off.
Yeah.
I guess depending on how
know.
pressurized, you might not be able to refill it.
Back on Galactica, Lee and Adama are having to confront their choices.
Yeah.
And Lee is not sure his dad would have done the same thing for him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he's like, Kara's family. He's all like, would you have done the same for me? And then the commander's all like, yeah, well, you're my third favorite. We would have left days ago, but I would have tried. Nah.
No, he actually says like,
it's a nice father-son moment.
It really is, because he's like, if it were you, I wouldn't be leaving. Like,
Yeah.
I would say, fuck the president and stay here. Which, that's why I wondered if he had also disappeared in this, how bad Adama would be spinning out.
Yeah.
Because he was already spinning out pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's so funny that Rosalind decides that she's going to stay on Galactica for this jump because she needs to see them actually do it with her own eyeballs. She refuses the offer of a shuttle back to her Colonial
I'll
One
just sit
ship.
this one out. No bigs, no bigs.
I want to see how the professionals do it, she says.
Yeah, diplomatically. So well. Kara is starting to make it back here. Has Hot Dog and Apollo launch when they catch the raider on Dratus. Hot Dog's Viper fails to launch. Apollo catches up with the raider, but Starbuck is just so good. Almost magically good at piloting. She like dances around Apollo, firing at him. She never fires at him until she can show him her call sign painted on the wings.
I thought this was duct tape. I thought she had like yellow emergency tape.
That makes more sense to me because I'm like, where the hell did she get paint? How did she have oxygen to go and paint it? How did she get outside with her flight suit and everything? None of this makes sense to me.
We have happy accidents.
Yeah. I can give a little headcanon to it and say that she had the emergency duct tape.
Yeah, well, she used it to patch her suit. We saw that.
Yeah. And that before she even got into the Cylon fighter, she went ahead and did that. Just like real quick. Just like gonna slap the Starbuck on here because I know I'm getting out of here on this thing. So I can give her that. I think that this whole plan was really foolhardy, though. Oh, man. I mean, I know there's nothing better at this point, but like, yikes.
Yeah.
She got lucky it was Lee. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And just Lee.
Yeah, if it were a couple Vipers, she probably would have got blown out before anyone would even noticed. She's brought aboard as the crew celebrates. Lee goes and catches her as she's getting like carted to medbay, and he comments on the smell.
We've already made that Star Wars reference.
I did think it was very interesting also that Adama got very excited when Lee's like, oh my God, it's Starbuck. It's definitely her. Like, he yells to bring her in, but to shoot if it does anything weird. So he is still thinking like, oh, could be Cylon problem here.
Yeah.
He doesn't let that totally overrule all of his better judgment. But still, I don't know, after the whole, what was that ship? Olympic Carrier incident? Where the Olympic Carrier like might have been under Cylon control for 30 minutes or so, or was it a few hours?
Yeah, it was
whatever. A shorter period of time.
Yeah, a couple hours.
Starbuck was alone on a moon, possibly with the Cylon Raider. Do we completely trust Starbuck? It seems like we do, because she's just magic. But
she is just
I don't
magic.
think I would. Because we don't know what's in those Raiders. I mean, now she's bringing us the ship back and we can see all the ship meat and stuff.
Yeah.
But still, there was that unknown period of time. You don't know what happened down there. I would have suspicions like for weeks, probably, maybe even forever after all of that.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. The commander goes and greets her in medbay, tells her that he's proud of her. They have a nice little proud papa moment too, and gives her his last cigar to credits.
Ta-da!
And that's the episode. On a scale of 1 to 12 colonies, what are you thinking?
This is probably the least cliffhanging episode. I'm not going to say it's no cliffhanger because we still have all that shit going on with Hilo that we don't know what's up with him at all. So that is nice to have a feeling of a bit more resolution. But yeah, I've got a lot of questions about how Starbuck pulled this off. I kind of had thought when we had the cliffhanger here that maybe she was going to have some more resolution to do about the whole Zach thing, but I guess she's just surviving, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to bump this one down to a 9, I think.
Yeah?
Because I have all those questions. It's almost overridden by the questions that the show wants me to be asking now. About the ship meat and other things. But there's just some like logical questions and I'm like, you didn't fully get me on board with my suspension of disbelief here.
I would agree with that entirely. I think that this is meant to be something for much later in the show. I'm gonna leave it at that. I think this is an episode that I did not like my first time viewing for the exact reason you did not like it. And I'm giving it a 10 out of 12 this time.
Okay.
I think that this episode, with the context of the full series behind it, is a stronger episode.
Okay. That'll help.
All right. Well, that said, next up, Season 1, Episode 6, Litmus. When a new copy of Doral, a Cylon who had previously been exposed while serving as Galactica's public relations officer, sneaks aboard and blows himself up, killing 3 people, Commander Adama and President Roslin must finally make public the terrifying secret known only to a select few. Cylons now look like humans.
Oh no, that was almost a little spoilery. It's fine. I think if a description spoils something that happens during the episode at this point, where like pretty much every time you and I are speaking, we've either had to watch one ahead or like that's the very next thing we're watching.
Yeah.
I'm not as concerned about those kind of descriptions because like we're right there.
Yeah.
We'll get in it.
I mean, I have seen ones where it has ruined the twist at the end of the episode. And
that is not as fun.
And I have avoided using those descriptions. So I'm looking at like I've got a place that I've been going to. I've been looking at one. If I like it, I run with it. If I think it's too much spoilies, I find a different one.
Yeah, that's fair. I appreciate that because like spoiling a detail in the episode, meh.
Yeah.
Spoiling a twist at the end of the episode, no bueno.
Yeah, especially a big twist. I even think, the one on next episode, I didn't like any of them that I found, so I just wrote one. I took bits out of ones that the stuff I didn't like out of ones I thought was too much.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember looking at the one on Apple because we're watching it on Apple TV, and I don't remember seeing anything bad about it.
Okay. Well, we'll get there when we get there. But before we do, we have to say thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. Jeremy Siegel, jeremysiegel42.bandcamp.com for putting together our theme music. Appreciate it so much. You can find more of Jeremy's work at that aforementioned Bandcamp website or on streaming services as Nuclear Jaguar.
And thank you to Angry.Duck.Time Machine on Instagram for our podcast artwork.
Hey, Aaron, thanks for editing this podcast. Really appreciate it and all the hard work and all the time you put in. Thank you so much.
And thank you, listener, for being here with us as we go on our Galactica journey. It's a lot of fun. If you want to join the conversation, you can check the website for our Discord and come hang out there. You can hang out with me everywhere except the BSG spoiler chat.
And go ahead and leave us a 5-star on your podcatchers. We appreciate that if you enjoyed the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thanks to Crazy Rick, who just left us a 5-star review a couple weeks ago that I hadn't called out yet. Congratulating us on finishing up B5 and Crusade and all of the films.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
Appreciate it. All right. We'll see you next week, Internet.
Bye.